Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to both of you on your nominations. Mr. Gensler, to date, more than 1.2 million securities experts, institutional and individual investors, and members of the public have pressed the SEC for a political spending disclosure rule. That's a pretty significant amount of public input for any potential rule. Since there are no political spending disclosure standards, corporate executives can spend shareholder money that benefits them and not the business. It can be a lucrative setup. Insiders can use someone else's money to support political causes that they favor. The fact that so many companies have reevaluated their political contribution plans after the January 6th attack on the Capitol shows just how quickly companies have realized the potential contributions have on a material impact on their reputation and the viability of their businesses, which is why I am reintroducing my Shareholder Protection Act, which would require companies to disclose the details of political expenditure and ask their shareholders for approval. Do you agree that political contributions by publicly listed corporations represent material information that could affect a company's financial performance and therefore should be disclosed to investors?
Senator, as we discussed in our private meeting, disclosures are critical to investors and promoting capital formation. Without prejudging a specific issue, I can assure you that I'll be grounded, if confirmed, in the materiality standard that drives all those decisions on disclosure. And as you said, 1.2 million public comments to the SEC, but I would also say I would consider last year's proxy season, which I think was close to 80 shareholder proposals, if I'm not mistaken, and over 40% of those investors voting supported it, even including Netflix adopted it, that they want to see what the companies they own are doing in the political arena. So if confirmed, it is something that I think the Commission should consider in light of the strong investor interest.
Well, thank you for that answer. I believe that shareholders should know if their corporate executives are using their money as a piggy bank for their causes, and that would to me as an investor, that would be important. I know that the ranking member asked you questions about diversity, and he was talking about a mandated proposal. I'd like to talk to you about, just the question of disclosure again. I think disclosure to the American investing public is incredibly important. Disclosure is investment to us as a government, when very often we are called upon to solve the problems of these corporations when they face financial challenges, as we saw in the Great Recession, as we've seen to some extent in some of these companies as a result of the pandemic. So the problem is that corporate America has a diversity problem. Boards and executive offices across the United States do not look like the people of this country. I have conducted 4 diversity surveys of Fortune 100 companies since 2010. My latest survey revealed that over the past 10 years, women and people of color have only made marginal gains in representations on corporate boards, senior executive management. I was originally hopeful that the SEC would help address this problem through its 2009 diversity disclosure rule, but unfortunately, the 2009 rule failed to even define diversity. And studies have shown that greater diversity on executive teams has led to greater profitability and therefore better outcomes for shareholders. Do you agree that greater diversity tends to lead to better corporate performance, as found by McKinsey and others?
Senator, I'm familiar with those studies, and they're well-crafted studies. My own experience is diversity is a very positive part of decision-making and enhances that decision-making.
And again, this is not forcing a corporation to make these decisions, but simply disclosing, giving the relationship between diversity and performance. Do you agree that investors should be informed about the policies companies have in place to promote diversity in their corporate leadership?
So if I can broaden it out, I think human capital is a very important part of the value proposition in so many companies. And Chair Clayton and the SEC took up some approaches to human capital, but I think it's always evolving, and that we will look at how will investors and what information investors want in this broad arena about the human capital, including diversity, at their companies they're investing in.
Well, I'll just close, Mr. Chairman, by saying a lot can be done to improve upon the 2009 diversity disclosure rule. It doesn't even define diversity. But I just think in one dimension, the Hispanic community, largest minority in the country, $1 trillion domestic marketplace spending, younger by a decade than the rest of the population, more brand loyal than any other group. From a corporate perspective, I'd like to be on them like white on rice. But as a community, I want us to know who's diversifying and who's representing the opportunities for us to have a say on corporate boards and senior executive management and procurement. So I hope you'll look at that seriously. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Menendez. Senator Scott.